Hi everyone. Okay, so today we are going to attempt the directed writing question for the English First Language paper 0500. I'll be recording this portion in three parts. Part 1 will be us going through the question together. Part 2 will be us going through the passage. And then part 3 will be us writing it out a little bit and then going through the marking scheme to see what are some of the points that we need to hit. So this will be part 1 of 3. Okay, I love the directed writing question. It's one of my favorite parts. And why is because it's an opportunity to be really creative. Okay, but just some technicalities first. So I've included here, as you can see, because from 2020 onwards, the directed writing question will be based on passage C, and also it will be question 3, and also the marks allocated will be 15 marks for content and 10 marks for the quality of writing. Okay, so that's technicalities out of the way, because from 2020 onwards, there are some, I would say, some significant changes to the 0500 paper, and these are the changes for directed writing. Okay, so shall we begin? So to go through the question, it's important to, of course, you can have formulas and whatnot about what to pick out from the question, but then it's fairly short, so I think we can actually just go through the question thoroughly each time when we do the directed writing question, and then just have thoughts about the information that's provided to us and then annotate. Okay, all right, so the title of the passage is The Prospect of Gold. All right, so that's the passage in the reading booklet. The question is, imagine you are one of the original prospectors who came to this canyon from far away 150 years ago. So this is interesting. Why? It's because, okay, so they ask you to imagine. So you get to role play here a little bit. You need to imagine that you are so the role has been given to you. You are one of the original prospectors. So of course you will need to know that a prospector is someone who prospects and in most cases gold, right? So this is, well, just looking at the question without reading the passage, you would know, or at least start guessing that you are a prospector during the gold rush era. Okay, so you go to a canyon. So a canyon, of course, is typically a geological feature or place where you would go to prospect for gold. Okay, and then this is 150 years ago. So let's say this is 2020, or this paper was the 2015 one, 150 years ago. Well, it's a really long time ago. Okay, so start to think about, if I were doing this question, I would start to think about like what my name would be, how I would look like, and how I would dress in that era. But you need to basically place yourself in that role. Prospector of gold during the gold rush 150 years ago. Okay, so that will be the thought process. Yeah. Okay, so what is your instruction? You need to write a letter home. So this is your format. You're writing a letter home. So now you are, of course, if you're writing home, it means, of course, then you are away from home. These are things that you need to think about, right? So you're away from home, probably really far away, and you're writing back to your husband or wife. So make a quick decision here, husband or wife. Okay, so let's say I'll pick husband. So just annotate very quickly in your exam paper that I'm writing home a letter to my husband in this case. So in your letter, you should, so these are your prompts. There will be 3 bullet prompts, of course, each time, but then the items you need to pick up would be numerous though. As you can see, there are n, so meaning more than 3. So describe the difficulties of the journey. So I would go, okay, journey where? So we're talking about journey into the canyon, right? And then we're talking about difficulties. You need to describe the difficulties. Well, as one would imagine, you would pick up information from the passage, of course, but start thinking already about like what possible difficulties will there be when you're traveling into a canyon, right? 150 years ago. Start thinking about, would you be going by foot? Would you be going on horse? Would you be, what kind of weather are we talking about? You're exposed to the different weather elements. Is it winter, extreme cold, or is it summer, extreme heat? Okay, so, but it says difficulties, so they should be numerous. Okay, all right, then prompt number 2, explain the living and working conditions at the settlement. So now that you also write about when you are already there. So they specified though living and also working conditions at the settlement. So a settlement, of course, is where prospectors go and set up like camps, and then that will be like a little settlement. So you would live and work there, right? So living, what possible living conditions are we talking about? Probably like those tent-like kind of scenarios, and also maybe cooking outdoors and like sleeping in the rough and that sort of thing. Working, of course, if you're prospecting for gold, this, of course, are all thoughts, right? Before we even read the passage, but it's important to really have these thoughts so you see whether your guesses or like your assumptions are right or not, to be confirmed when you see the passage. But it's important to already have these thoughts. So working conditions, of course, we're talking about what do you do from day to night. When there is light, then you will start panning for gold, perhaps. So what is it like to be panning for gold for hours on end, right? And also what kind of equipment you'll be using, or do you even have any equipment at all, right? Who are the kinds of like people who you'll be working with, things like that. So those are the thoughts, yeah? Okay, and then of course you have explore what the future may hold, and depending on whether or not your husband or wife joins you. So in this case, I chose my husband, I'm the wife who went, and then you are given the choice here. You need to decide on whether you are going to write to your husband for him to invite him to come and join you at the settlement, or are you going to tell him like, please wait for me, I'll be back soon, give it a little bit of time and things like that. Okay, so some thought process required here. Why would you write a letter back home to your husband or wife? And since you are a prospector who had gone out, in search of a better future, of course, right? So obviously, these journeys usually tend to take a very long time, months on end, if not years. So then, of course, in your letter, you need to think, am I writing back because I need to send news back to my partner to let them know how things are going? They're probably going to be very worried. You'll be worried, of course, whether your partner thinks about whether you'll be going back or not, So also be careful, because it needs to be quite realistic. When you're writing back to talk about the difficulties of the journey, how difficult are you going to make it sound? Do you want to worry them too much or not? Again, find out from the passage. And then, of course, living and working conditions. How honest are you going to be about the living and working conditions, depending also on whether you are going to invite your husband and wife to come and join you or not. All right. So, and then, of course, what the future may hold. Have you gone and left your home to go prospect for goals, promising your partner that you will go back perhaps by a certain time? Perhaps the time is up, and you need to write back now to, be accountable to your partner, right? So those will be the logical, rational thoughts to have as to why are you writing a letter home to your husband or wife, okay? All right, so base your letter on what you have read in passage A, and be careful to use your own words. Address each of the 3 bullet points. Here, it's important to note that when they ask you to address the 3 bullet points, to address the 3 bullet points quite equally. You will perhaps find information in the passage quite easily for maybe A1, which is this one here, difficulties of journey, perhaps even for A2, living and working conditions, maybe not so much for A3. But you need to make sure then that you include some information, I would say smart guesses about what potentially would happen, and then include that into your letter as well, so that you are able to address A1, A2, and A3 equally. All right. This will enable you to qualify yourself for the maximum mark possible for content, which is 15 marks. Okay. So, okay, then moving on, begin your letter. My dear, it is some time since I have been able to write to you, and then continue. Okay, you are encouraged to write between 250 to 350 words. Okay, right, so that basically is the walkthrough of the question. It took about, it's almost 10 minutes to go through this question. Of course, it's because I am explaining it. Once you have gotten used to the idea of going through the question, which is very important, because how you set out to do the question, you need to be very clear about it first. There's quite a bit of information to juggle. You will probably do this in about like 2 to 3 minutes in the actual exam. Okay, so practice doing this. The thought process is important. You need to know what role you are playing, and also what is the purpose and intention of the piece that you are actually writing, and also, of course, what are the prompts that you are supposed to actually include into your writing, as well as to be quite realistic about the piece of writing that you are going to do. Okay, so that's part 1. Yeah, and then after this, I'll be doing part 2 and part 3 with you guys, and then we will complete the directed writing question. All right, thanks everybody.